Welcome to The Explainer. We're diving into something pretty radical today, a proposal that could completely change how we think about mental illness. We're talking about moving away from just labels and toward an actual blueprint of the brain.
All right, so to really get this, we've got to start with a problem. A big one. It's a dilemma that's been at the heart of psychiatry for, well, over 100 years. Think about this for a second. If you go to a cardiologist, they don't just say, you have a chest issue. They'll tell you your mitral valve is prolapsed. It's specific. It's about an organ. But in psychiatry, we often end up with diagnoses like major depressive disorder. It's a label for a list of symptoms. We're great at describing what's happening, but we've been stuck when it comes to the why and the how. And here's the root of the problem, really. Dr. Abraham Paled makes this powerful point. We've been trying to apply simple, straight-line thinking to the brain. But the brain, it's anything but simple. It's maybe the most complex, nonlinear system in the entire universe. That means a tiny little change in one spot can create these huge ripple effects that you just can't predict. So what's the solution? Well, according to Paled, we need a whole new language. We've got to stop just listing symptoms. It's time to start talking about the physics of the brain, to understand it as a complex system with its own rules. Okay, so if we're going to treat the brain like a physical system, then what are the rules? What's the fundamental code, the operating system that makes it all run? First off, you have to get your head around this idea of emergent properties. Things like your mood, your personality, even your consciousness. You can't point to a single neuron and say, there it is. Nope. It emerges from the incredibly complex interactions of the entire system. It's like a traffic jam. It's not a property of any one car. It's a property of the whole system of cars interacting. You just can't find happiness by looking at one cell. And second, this system isn't static. Not at all. Your brain is physically changing every single moment of every single day. It's called experience-dependent plasticity. Basically, everything you see, learn, and feel physically rewires the connections in your brain. Your life story isn't just a metaphor, it is literally being etched into your neural hardware. And the third piece of the puzzle? That wiring is just brilliant. It's what's known as a small world network. Think of it like a perfectly designed city. You've got these dense local neighborhoods where everyone knows each other and can get specialized work done really fast. But you've also got these massive, long-range superhighways connecting all the neighborhoods for quick, global communication. It's the best of both worlds. So how does this network build our reality? Well, it works in layers, like a hierarchy. At the bottom, you have the raw data, simple things like colors, sounds, textures. The brain then takes that raw data and starts to bundle it together into whole objects, like seeing an apple instead of just red and round. And then at the very top, it pulls everything together, adds in your memories, your context, your feelings, and bam, you get your rich, seamless, conscious experience. Okay, this is where it all starts to click. If the brain is a system with rules, then what happens when things go wrong? Well, mental disorders stop being these vague, mysterious labels. Instead, they become something much more concrete: system failures. Dr. Paled calls them globulopathies, which is just a way of saying the entire system is malfunctioning in a predictable way. So what does that look like? Well, a healthy brain is just in flow. It's optimized, it's integrated, it's flexible, it's constantly adapting. But a disordered brain, it's out of balance. It's a system that's gotten stuck. Maybe its parts aren't talking to each other anymore. Maybe it's caught in a rigid, repetitive loop. It's just not working the way it's supposed to. And this new framework actually connects specific types of system failures to the major categories of mental illness we already know. For instance, what we call psychosis, that's seen as a breakdown in connectivity. Depression, that's a problem of de-optimization, where the system just can't run efficiently. And anxiety, that's described as constraint frustration, which is basically the system being stuck in an unstable, wobbly state. And you know what's wild? This idea isn't entirely new. It's actually a return to some very old insights. We're talking way back, over 100 years ago, when the pioneers who first studied schizophrenia, people like Meinert and Bleuler, they had this intuition. They believed it was caused by a splitting of mental functions, a physical breakdown in the brain's wiring. They were onto something. So this leads to a huge question.
If we can pinpoint these system failures, could we create a whole new kind of diagnostic map for the mind? That's exactly the goal of what Peld's work calls clinical brain profiling.
So check this out. This is the proposed translation matrix. It's like a Rosetta Stone for the mind. On one side, you have the clinical labels we use, and on the other, you have a specific, measurable disturbance in the brain's dynamics. All of a sudden, something as complex as psychosis gets a code, C, a failure of connectivity. Depression becomes D, for de-optimization. You're literally creating a blueprint that links symptoms to how the brain's system is actually working or not working.
And with a tool like this, a diagnosis isn't just one word anymore. It becomes a unique profile, almost like a fingerprint of that person's specific brain function. You can see exactly where the system is struggling, which parts are disconnected, which parts are running too hot or too cold. It's totally personalized.
This is a total paradigm shift. It changes the most fundamental question we ask. We move from, what disorder do you have, to, how is your brain system failing? It's no longer about putting you in a box. It's about understanding the mechanism behind your struggle. And of course, a new map doesn't just show you where you are, it shows you where you can go. Once you understand the how, you can start developing treatments that are aimed squarely at fixing the actual problem in the system. And the end goal here is, well, it's incredibly ambitious and powerful. Think about it. If mental illness is just a kind of arrhythmia of the brain's electrical rhythms, then it stands to reason we could build a pacemaker for the brain, a device that could gently nudge those rhythms back into a healthy pattern. The crazy thing is, this isn't science fiction. The basic toolkit for this kind of thing is already being developed. We're talking about technologies like transcranial stimulation, which uses these gentle magnetic or electrical pulses to retune brain networks from the outside, or immersive VR therapy that can help people safely rewire their responses to trauma. We even have super advanced tools on the horizon like optogenetics, where you can literally use light to turn specific neurons on and off. The goal with all of these is the same, to get in there and directly rebalance the system.
So the whole point of treatment gets turned on its head. Right now, so much of treatment is about managing symptoms. But this new approach, the goal is to actually fix the problem, to cure the underlying system failure and re-optimize the brain's organization, hopefully for good.
And that brings us to the final, really provocative question. This entire framework suggests that maybe the biggest thing holding us back from a cure isn't a lack of technology, it's just our old way of thinking, our outdated model of the mind. So I'll leave you with this. If we can create a pacemaker for the heart, what's really stopping us from creating one for the brain? Thanks for joining us on The Explainer.